And now, The Federal Drive with Terry Gerton, sponsored by GEHA.
Welcome to The Federal Drive on Federal News Network. It's Thursday, March 26th. I'm your host, Terry Gerton, and I'm glad you're here. Coming up on this hour of The Federal Drive, we'll continue our topic from Wednesday's show, developing and implementing a national strategy for an issue that spans multiple federal agencies when no one is in charge. Today, we'll tackle another urgent issue, what a national workforce strategy could look like and who might lead it. Plus, we'll take a historical look at the impacts of wartime headlines on the markets and TSP investments. Those stories and much more ahead during this hour of The Federal Drive. We begin with this. The Department of Homeland Security shutdown has now stretched for more than 40 days, and Transportation Security Administration employees say they've reached a breaking point. TSA callouts are leading to delays at some airports, and the agency is losing staff as it prepares for record high levels of travel this summer. Federal News Network's Justin Doubleday joins me now with more. Justin, thanks for being here.
Good to be here, Terry.
What are the latest numbers you're hearing on callouts and resignations at TSA?
Yeah, acting TSA Administrator Hawen McNeil actually testified just Wednesday morning on this issue. She said that TSA has lost around 460 officers since this latest shutdown began. The daily call-out rates at airport checkpoints have averaged 11% nationwide, and there are multiple airports that have experienced greater than 40 or even 50% call-out rates on some days. This all comes, of course, as TSA is dealing with a travel surge, spring break travel surge. And, you know, it's of course coming on the heels of last fall's record government shutdown. So TSA officers are certainly struggling here just with the compounding effects of multiple shutdowns over the last 6 months.
This may be a case where actions certainly speak louder than words, but what are employees saying about the impact of the shutdown?
Yeah, TSA employees are preparing to miss a third paycheck during this current shutdown this Friday, and they're really essentially fed up in so many words. Reporters spoke with several TSA representatives from the American Federation for Government Employees, and essentially they said that TSA officers are struggling with their bills, of course. You know, that's leading to folks calling out because they can't afford transportation or they need to work a second job that will actually pay them. Some TSA employees are now even resorting to selling plasma and things like that to get by. So it's just a really tough time to be a TSA officer right now. And of course, that includes other DHS employees as well who aren't being paid during this shutdown. But TSA officers are still among the lower paid federal employees out there. And so more so than most, they live paycheck to paycheck. Sean Root is a TSA officer and an executive with the American Federation of Government Employees. He kind of summed it up during the press call on Tuesday.
We have mortgages, car loans, personal loans. None of these are paused because of the shutdown. The bills continue to come. Our members are still being told, go find loans, go borrow money. It doesn't happen. A lot of people exhausted those funds and those opportunities during the last shutdown. You know, these banks, everybody, they give us a little cushion to absorb the financial hit, and now here we are again. You know, there's only so much that these people can take until there's a breaking point, and I think we're at that breaking point. Forcing everybody into that impossible situation, I don't wish it upon anybody.
Well, the president has deployed ICE agents to some airports. How has that affected the situation?
Yeah, we have kind of two competing views somewhat on this. So Hawen McNeil, the acting TSA administrator, part of the administration, testified on Wednesday. She was asked specifically about this because we've seen ICE officers, videos of ICE officers at airports not doing a whole lot in the way of what TSA would normally do, of course. McNeil said ICE agents are at the airports helping out specifically with ID checks with the credential authentication machine that you get to the TSA line and you hand over your ID initially. That's something McNeil says requires just a little bit of training as opposed to some of the other screening functions that require a lot more training for TSA employees. On the other hand, the AFGE representatives from TSA who spoke to us reporters on Tuesday said that ICE officers are essentially just a distraction to this whole story of TSA officers not being paid during the shutdown. They said that they're not doing a whole lot because so much of what TSA does require months of training. Johnny Jones is the treasurer for TSA Council 100.
This is a straight-up distraction to the real story of TSA officers going to work without being paid. The ICE officers are being paid. This is kind of like an insult to the employees. I've heard all kinds of negatory feedback in regards to that.
And so with all of those different perspectives, Justin, what are some of the longer-term concerns about how this shutdown is going to affect the TSA workforce going forward?
Yeah, this is where there's perhaps some shared perspective on this. There's likely to be more attrition if this isn't solved soon. I think both the AFGE representatives who are from TSA and TSA Administrator Hawen McNeil said that there's likely to be more attrition. And TSA is facing down a very busy, potentially record level travel season coming up here in the summer with the FIFA World Cup, of course, with America 250 events. And then there's a lot of concerns, security concerns around the war in Iran and the potential for terrorism, of course. So TSA has lost roughly 460 officers during this shutdown. There were about 1,100 officers who departed during last fall's record government shutdown. Their staff has been going down. And at this point, we're about 3 months out from that World Cup. McNeil said that is not enough time now at this point to hire officers and then get them trained in time for the World Cup. So there's a lot of concern at TSA headquarters about attrition.
It takes a TSO 4 to 6 months to be fully certified in all functions to operate a checkpoint. And so at this point, if we bring on any new TSOs, those folks will not be deployed in time by FIFA. And so we are watching our attrition rates very closely to make sure that, if we see any spikes, we'll have to pivot and assess how we are going to staff the FIFA locations adequately.
Justin, there's been some conversation in the past about privatizing the TSA function. Is that a potential solution, or is TSA proposing some other options to address the staffing challenges?
TSA has not proposed privatization related to the specific staffing challenges they're experiencing right now with these back-to-back shutdowns. That said, the Trump administration has alluded to the potential for more privatization. There is a security screening partnership program where some airports, a limited number of airports, do have some privatized security. And McNeil has specifically in past congressional testimony said that they would look to potentially expand that partnership program. And so there is a lot of concern among the TSA workforce that this current situation will lead to more privatization, will be used as a way to privatize their job functions even further. And so that is a very present concern among the TSA workforce.
That's Federal News Network's Justin Doubleday. Justin, thanks for bringing us the story.
Thank you, Terry.
You can find all the details at federalnewsnetwork.com. Up next, fixing the talent pipeline doesn't require a single sweeping reform, but it does require coordination. This is The Federal Drive with Terry Gerton on Federal News Network.